Dajia Hao, Jintian Wo, Men Lai Liao, Liao, Zhong Guo, Wen Zi De Qi Yuan. Hello everyone, today let's talk about the origins of Chinese characters. It's a story filled with myths and legends. One famous story says that Kang Jie, an official who worked for the legendary Yellow Emperor Huang Di, created Chinese characters. The story goes that Kang Jie got his inspiration from nature, looking at things like bird footprints and other natural things. Now, whether this story is actually true is up for debate, but it does show how important writing is in Chinese culture. The earliest real evidence of Chinese writing comes from the Shang dynasty around 1600 to 1046 BCE. Back then, people wrote on oracle bones and turtle shells to try and predict the future. These writings are called oracle bone script, and they are the oldest form of Chinese writing we know of. They tell us a lot about what the Shang dynasty people cared about, like farming, wars, rituals, and ancestor worship. Even these early characters are pretty complex. They use pictograms, ideograms, and compound ideograms, which shows they had a pretty advanced way of writing. These early writings laid the foundation for how Chinese characters developed over thousands of years. Early Chinese characters were mostly pictograms. Pictograms look like the things they represent, so they're easy to understand. For example, the character for sun looked like a circle with a dot in the middle, and the character for tree looked like, well, a tree. You can still see these pictographic roots in many modern Chinese characters, which is pretty cool. Besides pictograms, the ancient Chinese also used ideograms. Ideograms represent ideas, not just things you can see. For example, the character for above was a line with a dot above it, and below was the opposite. Ideograms made the Chinese writing system more abstract, allowing people to express more complicated ideas. As people needed more words, they started combining pictograms and ideograms to make compound ideograms. These combined the meanings of the individual parts. For example, the character for rest combined person and tree, like someone leaning against a tree to rest. Over a long time, Chinese characters changed and became simpler. While you can still see the pictographic and ideographic origins in many characters, they've evolved into logograms. Logograms are symbols that represent whole words or morphemes, the smallest parts of words that have meaning. Modern Chinese characters usually have two main parts, radicals and phonetic components. Radicals give you clues about the meaning of a character. There are 214 radicals, and they're often on the left side or top of a character. For example, the radical for water appears in characters related to water, like river and ocean. Radicals are like hints that help you guess the general meaning of a character you don't know. Phonetic components give you clues about how to pronounce a character. While they're not always perfect because the language has changed over time, they still help. For example, the character for east shares a phonetic component with winter, which means they sound somewhat similar. Radicals and phonetic components make Chinese characters a complex and interesting writing system. The way Chinese writing has changed over time shows how important it is. From the old oracle bone script to the beautiful calligraphy of later times, Chinese writing has taken many forms, each with its own style and purpose. Printing, which started in the Tang dynasty, made it much easier to spread written knowledge. In the mid-20th century, the People's Republic of China made some big changes to the language to help more people learn to read and write. One of the biggest changes was simplified characters. Simplified characters are easier versions of traditional characters with fewer strokes. This made learning to read and write much easier for many people. Simplified characters have changed Chinese society a lot. They're now the standard way of writing in mainland China and Singapore, while traditional characters are still used in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Macau. Chinese characters have also influenced other languages like Japanese and Korean. Using Chinese characters in these languages has made their writing systems richer and helped with cultural exchange for centuries.